This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more. Hey everyone, I'm Jace Morgan, Content Director for Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today we're talking with Eddie Lawrence, owner of MTR Mobile Transport Repair. Eddie, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for the invite.
So excited to talk with you here. We're going to talk about service-focused issues here, and being on the heavy-duty truck service side, being on the mobile repair side is super interesting, right? You're in there on the road with people probably having not a great day as they want to get their trucks back on the road. Taking a step back here, what do you see as the biggest service challenges that your customers are dealing with, and what's really putting trucks on the side of the road, if you could generalize anything at this point?
The biggest thing that we experience in the 27 years doing this is when a fleet is more in a reactive mindset on their fleet maintenance, as opposed to having a plan in place with service intervals happening regularly. A lot of times, if they're on the side of the road, there's a good chance that they don't have a smart reoccurring interval plan in place, or they're getting serviced and looked at on a regular basis. So, we have fleets that do very well at that, and we help them with that. And we set up a program and we follow their guidelines on their intervals, depending on the year, make, and models. And then we have those fleets that are really reactive, and they're way over their service intervals and PM services. And then that's when we get more calls, is it'll eventually catch up to them.
Right. Yeah. You'll see that manifest in engine issues, tire issues, brake issues, all those issues you don't want to see. I do want to dig into the contract maintenance side of things, or the consultative maintenance there. But I want to back up for a minute, because I think mobile service in particular is super interesting. You're operating out of Colorado Springs, helping people there on the roads. What do people expect, or what should fleets expect when they're working with a mobile service repair operation in terms of technical expertise and equipment maintenance capabilities out there on the road? Is this something, do you find most of those repairs getting done on the road, or are you just bringing them back to the shop and having to service them there?
We try to determine that on the phone call, the initial call. If it's what we call a one-off call, which is just kind of a cold call, we will instruct them and advise them on the phone. And in a case to where we feel like we cannot help them, whatever the breakdown site is, we'll recommend towing, because they're going to have a service call fee on top of that. And there's a good chance it may have to get towed and come to the shop anyway. A big part of what we do and focus on is going to the actual fleet's location and going to their drop lots, their warehouses, their facilities, and taking care of their maintenance on site at their facilities. And that's where the preventative maintenance plans come in place, and we can take care of them on site, and it minimizes that side of the road stuff. I myself, when I was working out of my service truck years ago, I would do a lot of the breakdowns on the side of the highway in the busy scenarios, to say the least. And I try not to put my guys in that situation now, because I had a couple close calls, and it's just not safe. So if they're not in a extremely safe spot, we will advise them to get it towed in.
Right, for sure. So let's dig into that a little bit. So you have contract maintenance here. The mobile part is going to that fleet location, right? Just to kind of start off, I mean, the contract service, let's call it relationship, right? It's very relationship based. There's a lot of trust there. There's a lot of expectations there. How does that play in a mobile service world where you're going to their location? Any big differences there that stand out versus maybe a fleet having to take it to the repair location?
Yeah, it's very personalized. So, we consider it, and the fleet customers consider it, a partnership. When we can, when they have access to our mobile guys to come on site whenever they need something, and the larger repairs will schedule in to come to the shop, anything that we don't want to expose to the elements. That being said, there's a partnership there, but it's not a written contract. I imagine, some fleet services have, a good experience with that. But the way we've always done it is it's a verbal agreement. We'll show them what we're going to do for them. We'll lay it out on paper, but no signatures or anything like that. It's just we always come in at our A game. And if there's ever any issues, of course, we take care of them. But it builds trust. They're not locked into a contract. We always strive to be 100% on the service side on quality and everything we do. And, not being bound under the contract gives that customer, that freedom to make a choice, who and when and where they use fleet service. And, we have customers that we've had for years and years and fleets that we've taken care of. And it's just an established relationship, a partnership, and trust on both sides.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's amazing too, right? And you're talking about building those relationships. Are there any like keys to that success, right? Because that could be from a business standpoint too, especially with no contracts. You definitely want to make sure you can trust that person on that other side of that transaction. The fleet wants to know they can trust you as well too, right? Because you're dealing with their livelihoods with the equipment repair. What are some of those keys to that long-term success of that partnership?
It's meeting with the managers of the facility and dealing with their managers higher up that are more district managers,
Hmm.
talking with them over the phone, explaining them what we do. Then we were face to face with the local managers of the facility, and then we show them what we can do. It's a relationship that's established between my general manager and service advisor with
Hmm.
their manager and their service guy that they use on their end. And so they develop a working relationship to where we have a process. We have a process of doing things a certain way. They have a process, and we get into that group. We learn each other's systems. We learn each other's processes and ways of doing things. And it doesn't take too long to establish that relationship, but the trick is keeping that relationship. And if there's a change in management, in many cases, it's like starting over, even though it's the same company.
Right.
So if we have a change in a upper management, then it's a reintroduction. This is what we've done for you. This is our history. This is what we will continue to do for you, and do our best to earn that trust again with the new manager.
Yeah, I want to dive into something here because you talk about the systems that fleets and customers are using, and one of the things we always talk about relationships in turn when it comes to service and service providing, but technology also comes up, right? Trucks are incredibly advanced with how they're communicating faults and what's going on with the service needs. Service maintenance records and platforms are evolving quite a bit too. How do you navigate that in that mobile service component? How do you stay on top of what you need to know to be able to service the trucks even on the PM level?
We have a operating system that's specialized for big trucks and trailer fleets. And with that system, it's easy to set up the intervals for their PM services. It's tailored around what we do. The big thing about that operating system is that there's a customer portal
Hmm.
to where they get emailed your services due. They click approve or authorize, or we send estimates over in an email. It's a one button approval.
Right.
And the neat thing about the portal is once the customer uses it and begins using it, they will have access to all of their maintenance records of anything that we've done on their fleet for them. So as long as they're using us, they will build over time a full records and have access to those records 24/7 through their customer portal.
Hmm.
And that's a great edge for us to be up with the technology and to offer that kind of service. They also can pay invoice with one button in the email.
Right.
Yeah, it's very seamless, and
Right.
and we love it. And the particular operating system is called Full Bay, is the
Okay.
one that we use.
Yep, yep. No full bay as well. Well, and and when we talk about those systems too, it's interesting. You mentioned the fleet's engagement there, right? Do you ever have to bring them along or train them or encourage them to use that, or do they see? I mean, after a while, do they see the power of having all their records in one place and be able to get that bird's eye view of it?
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the individual, but you're absolutely right. It does. It sometimes it's a phone call or two, and my service manager or GM just walking them through the process,
Right.
and a time or two, maybe three, and then they make the time to do it, and they're like, oh, okay, this is great, this is easy, I have access now,
Right.
and it's just getting them to where they have the time, and we can spend a few minutes with them and walk them through it.
Right. Perfect. Eddie, one last thing for you too. So we're talking preventive maintenance, which is always important. You deal with it a lot, and then you see the people on the side of the road who clearly need to deal with it a little bit more. Do you have any just general advice or tips or guidance for people on PMs? Something that you run into a lot that you're like, if fleets would just focus on this or this practice or this component, what should be the big takeaway on preventative maintenance?
Preventative maintenance, the big takeaway is as long as they're following the manufacturer recommendations for their year, make, and model vehicles and sticking with that program and sticking with that plan, that truck and that equipment will last a lot longer duration than them stretching it out and going way over or that service interval.
Right.
So there again, we have a couple fleets that stretch it a little too far. We do our best to advise them on that, but it falls into just a bad practice on a particular, perhaps a manager of a particular fleet. And we advise them on this, and that's all we can do at that point. So we do pull our hair out on that issue because we're the ones. Let us do our job, and your fleet will stay on the road. It'll stay functioning for you. I mean, that's your business. These fleets, their business is transportation.
Right.
Fleet maintenance should be the utmost highest priority because they are in the business of transportation. And when there's neglect on a fleet, it's very frustrating for us being the maintenance providers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you say that it is January, right? It's the time for resolutions. It's a new year. We all know what's good for us. And we also know that we have some bad habits and that things get busy and that, yeah, it's important, but maybe I'll get to it next year, right? But you know what? I'm with you this year. Maybe a good resolution for fleets out there, really focus down on preventative maintenance and avoid being on the side of the road there.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Let's make that resolution now.
I'm with you. Eddie, thanks so much for taking the time. Wonderful talking with you. I'm sure I'll talk to you again very soon.
Take care, Jason. Thank you for the invite again and appreciate it.